Hi everyone, this is Dr. Deskins. I wanted to follow up on your week 2 SEO SEM assignment. First of all, y'all did really well considering most of you probably don't have any clue as to SEO and SEM. You really did provide a lot of good information. Throughout your grading rubric, you'll see that I have comments posted. And within your document, I have marked certain areas. First and foremost, I want to make sure you all understand that when it comes to your grading rubric, that these are instructions that go along with the assignment. I don't create them, I have to enforce them. I will not mark every area. Where you have an area, or an error, I will point out certain maybe certain spelling errors or APA sentence formation errors, just to help you understand how this is all being handled. A couple examples, couple common errors that I see are in writing dollar amounts. Your dollar amounts should always be written out in the dollar format with a dollar sign. For example, you had a $5,000 budget, so you would write out 5,000.00 down to the cents. Please do not just put 5K. Don't put $ 5,000. You need to write it out. APA is very specific on the format, and again, I have to enforce that, and so I will mark those areas so that you can be aware that as you continue to write in college, that you start to conform to these APA standards. Another area is in numbers. If you are making a reference, for example, to 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever, please don't put the number 2. Remember, you need to spell it out as TWO. You need to remember that numbers and the number format are strictly used for a dollar amount. So when we're talking about times or any other type of number, please just write them out. Contractions are another common error I see in APA format. We write out contractions. So therefore, if you're using can't, you will write cannot. Won't would be will not, and etc. You just follow that same format. Personal pronouns, when you're writing, for example, in this SEO SEM campaign that you were writing, you would not use any reference to yourself. You would not use any personal pronouns. Even though this is a personal assignment to you, you will not write these personal pronouns referring to yourself as I or me. You would rewrite the information to reference, perhaps maybe making a reference to the campaign, or recommendations lead to such and such. Same thing with referring to the company. I shared in our announcement a lot of different examples on proper formatting and proper grammatical ways to write in your papers. The word this is a common error. You want to avoid this because it is considered an unclear antecedent. This does not describe a subject. If this in your sentence is referring to the company, you have to think of, if you were to remove that sentence from your document, could anybody understand what you were talking about? Most likely, or 100% of the time, nobody's going to know what your topic is on that sentence. So that's what you want to avoid, starting a sentence with this. You want to be more specific and make it into a subject. Perhaps you were writing about the search engine results, or you're talking about SEO in general, or the company. Just write it out, and please avoid using this. I see it constantly, and we need to remember that we are following an APA format in this course. I know several of you have taken this course as an elective and probably thought it would be, pretty much breezing through it. The information is a little difficult if you do not understand this part of marketing. However, we do still have guidelines that we have to follow, and I have to follow the rubric grading. So I'm trying to share all this information, not to be a thorn in your side, but to help you understand what the format is and why we follow it. Another common error I see is your reference list. In your reference list, you're going to list your references in ABC order, alphabetical order by the author. I have provided in your feedback, I have provided a lot of different examples of how you would write your references. Please do not list your reference list as works cited or anything else. An APA format list is always listed as references, which is centered in the middle of the page, and then your reference list follows underneath in alphabetical order. There is a format to follow when listing your references. For example, the indentation. When you're writing, because everything in your documents, when you're following APA format, is a Times New Roman font. It is 12-point and double-spaced. When you get to your reference list at the bottom and you start writing out your references, the easiest thing to do would be to probably write out your references correctly. I have provided a lot of feedback on that just to help you guys with the correct formation. But what you could do is after you type out your entire reference list, you highlight the entire list, and then on your keyboard, you're going to hit the Control key and the letter T. And what that's going to do, and technically should do, unless you have other formatting problems in your Word document, but normally what it'll do is it'll take all of your reference list and it will automatically indent your second line in. If you are concerned about doing that, you can always type it out, but really the easiest thing to do is, even if you have one reference in your list, just highlight it, hit Control T, and it should automatically indent your second line for you. But the most common error I see in a reference list, your formation is, it's always going to be the author's last name, comma, first initial, which is capitalized, and a period. Then in parentheses, you will either have the year, if you're using a website. Technically, that's not peer-reviewed information, but we do allow, or I do allow it for this course. So for your year, you would normally put, if it was written in 2018, that's fine. If you happen to find an article or something that actually has a month and a day and a year, then you would list it as 2018, comma, if it was January, you write out the entire word January, and then whatever the day is, if it was January 5th, it would be 2018, comma, January, which is capitalized, 5, and parenthesis, and then a period. Then you come your title. Your third section is your title. In your title is always going to be, the first word is capitalized. Every other word in your title is going to be lowercase. Now there is an exception if your title has an acronym in it. For example, we are talking about SMART goals. Then if the title of your information has SMART listed in it, then yes, you would keep that all capitalized as SMART. All other words in that title would be lowercase unless it was the first word. If there's an acronym such as SEO or SEM or USA, or if it is a state, if it's, for example, North Carolina, you would capitalize North and you would capitalize Carolina because that is a proper name. You will also capitalize company names. Then as soon as you write your title, again, first word is capitalized, all others are lowercase, with the exceptions I just mentioned, and then you end that with a period. Then you will write out retrieved from, and then paste the URL. Now I'm not marking off when you have a hyperlink in your URL, but in true APA format, you are not supposed to have that hyperlink included in your document. It's hard to do in a discussion board unless you understand how to get into the HTML code, and I'm not going to ask you to do that. But in your actual assignment, once you type out your reference and you hit the return key, even if you removed it, once you hit the return after you type in the URL, it's going to automatically put your hyperlink in. What you need to do is right-click on that and remove your hyperlink. technically that's how you're supposed to write a reference in your APA format. You would not have that hyperlink in there. Again, I have not, most likely will not be marking off if you have the hyperlink in there. My main concern is that you are writing that your list correctly and your titles correctly. If you move on into graduate courses and graduate studies, you're going to be hit really hard if you don't follow that format. I would prefer to see you practicing it now so that you get used to it, because APA is not an easy format to learn. But with practice, it can get better. And SNU has the Writing Center. They have a lot of help that's available to you. We have the Purdue OWL, which has many examples. I've shared these resources, and I share them pretty much in every feedback I give to you on your rubric. Just so all you have to do is click the link and go there, and you could just look to see. Most of you are using electronic sources. So, for example, just find out how to cite an electronic reference. For Purdue OWL, it's listed in there because there are several different writing formats. But again, we are following APA format. For your in-text citation, several of you are attempting, and I appreciate you attempting to use an in-text citation, but you're forgetting to put your year. When you write an in-text citation, what that means is that you found a reference outside and you list the reference in your list at the bottom of your paper. And then within the body of your paper for an in-text citation, normally you would have, according to such and such author, and then in parentheses you have the year, and you continue on with your words on how you translated the information from that author on the information you're citing. Or if you rewrite, which you are supposed to rewriting, please stop copying and pasting text from somewhere else. Copying and pasting is going to bring a high plagiarism score to your submission, and that's a really big no-no in any university. High plagiarism scores can actually get you removed, and my goal is to help bring that to your attention so that you can fix it, and then we can kind of move on, and you can resubmit and have a clean paper. So if you write a sentence and you find a reference and you want to reword something and you rewrite it, still get the main idea across, and then you want to close your sentence with an in-text citation because you want to give credit to the author. At the end of the sentence, you will put in parentheses author's last name, comma, and the year, and then a period. The period goes at the end. So that parenthetical in-text citation is inside of your sentence with a period at the end. Now, if you have multiple authors, there are certain ways to list multiple authors for an in-text citation that has multiple authors. It's just authors' last names, and then the ampersand is included in that list. Again, please use the resources I'm sharing for SNU and for the Purdue OWL so that you can get used to writing these references correctly. Another tip that I have shared and will continue to share is Grammarly, another tool. It's free. You can use Grammarly on their website directly, where you can either copy and paste your text, or you can upload your document and have Grammarly run it right there. And it's super easy. You can also actually have it connected to your Word program, and even your email or your website browsers. I use it everywhere, and because my biggest guilt is I write in passive voice because we talk a lot in passive voice. So it has helped me a lot. Using it in your Word program, after you write your information, save, and then open Grammarly and run it. What you will find is that Grammarly will run through your document. It'll show you where you have incorrect sentence formation. You can even, in the settings, you can let Grammarly know that you are using APA format. And so what it'll tell you that, for example, it will highlight this in the beginning of your sentence, and it'll tell you that it's an unclear antecedent and consider correcting it. It'll also point out your personal pronouns and a lot of other, or if you end a sentence with a preposition, for example. Yes, there are a lot of rules, but this is how it is, and this is how APA format is, how it's handled. And again, my role is to point these out to you. And even though I have not been grading heavily on that, I will expect more. And I expect for you guys to read my feedback, and I want to see improvements in your writing. If I see improvements in your writing, I'm going to let certain things slide. If I see that you continue to make the same mistakes, I'm going to have to keep on marking you off, because when you open your rubric that's attached to whether it's your discussion board or your assignment, those little boxes in the table is what I have to select to say if you've met those particular guidelines. So if you, for example, we had in this particular assignment, we had two $5,000 budgets that we were using for our SEO and SEM campaigns. If you did not go into detail on how you were going to spend that money, you're not going to receive an exemplary score. What you need to realize is that for this assignment, and a lot of the assignments you're working on, you are writing a marketing campaign. And if you put yourself in that position and you go up in front of the company executives and you have this whole campaign written out and you go to present it, you will never make reference to yourself in the first person ever. The company executives, first and foremost, they don't care what your opinion is. What they care about is that they've given you two $5,000 amounts of money. They want to know the specifics. They want to know the who, what, when, where, why. They want to know basically, really they're going to want to know how you're going to spend their money, why you're going to spend their money, and where. And if you're not specific in how you break down the information, if you're up against other candidates, for example, for a campaign, you're not going to get it because you didn't give them anything. You can't just go in and say one sentence and say, well, we're going to focus on your SEO and we're going to, work on your SEM campaign. Well, that doesn't mean anything to an executive, especially if they're not used to the industry jargon. And the industry jargon means these terms that we use in marketing, and SEO and SEM are two of those terms. We need to always consider defining them when we write our work so that the reader understands what that means. These are not common knowledge terms, and therefore we need to explain them. That's where your outside references and your resources come into play. So again, when you're going to be presenting your budget to the company executives, you really need to be more detailed in how you're going to spend that money. There were a few of you that actually went above and beyond, and you even mentioned your SWOT analysis, which is fantastic. We haven't really gotten into a SWOT analysis, but your SWOT analysis, it's SWOT, and it's another acronym in the industry. That is considered your company's strengths, weaknesses, which come from your internal, and then your opportunities and your threats, and those are external. As a company and as a marketing person or a business owner, you're going to always be faced with your SWOT analysis, and you need to understand where your company's strengths are. You need to understand where your weaknesses are. If you don't address your weaknesses, you're not going to succeed, and I can definitely say that. Your opportunities are, when you're looking at your competitors, is there something your competitor is offering that you haven't offered, or something you haven't considered, or maybe they're offering something and you can do it better, or you can kind of play on that and bounce off into another area, and now you found maybe a new niche in the market where you can tailor and be the only one to offer that particular thing to the consumer. And then with the threats, a threat, yes, can come from your competitor, but threats usually also come from government rules and regulations in your local and even your state regulations. A threat can come from inclement weather. If you live in an area where you have ice storms, snowstorms, or even where I am in Central Florida, we have threats of hurricanes. from June 1st all the way into November. So it's a very long period of time. And granted, we don't have hurricanes throughout the whole time. However, last year we had a terrible one that engulfed the entire state of Florida. If you're a company and you did not prepare for that threat of inclement weather, and you did not prepare for a hurricane to hit the entire state of Florida, which was not common, you could lose your company. And so these are things, these are specifics in your descriptions that when you're writing and you see this listed in your rubric, this is where I want you to have a little bit more critical thought process and your critical writing skills. The last point I want to mention is in your keywords. I know you have focused on keywords such as flowers or real estate, sporting goods, vehicles. When you're thinking about your keywords, Google's going to constantly change if you haven't figured that out from week 2. And a lot of times we have no warning and we struggle like we did in week 2. But we deal with it. Google has made changes to where we don't just focus on a keyword. They want everything to be keyword phrases, and keyword phrases means that you're technically using a phrase. So if you're a company and you're focusing on vehicles, please don't pay for Google Ads for the terms for vehicles. That is such a waste of money. You're going to be competing with the big boys in the market, and you're just going to be wasting money for your company. Instead, find an area within vehicles that you can focus on. Is your company, for example, are they better at reselling vehicles? Do they sell used vehicles? Are they, or some manufacturers call them reconditioned, or maybe some other terminology. Real estate is another one, and I saw papers referring to Realtor.com and Zillow. You're not gonna pay for the keywords real estate. Again, that's a waste of your money. You probably, even with a $5,000 budget, you wouldn't be able to afford it, because you need to realize with your SEM marketing, when you're doing pay-per-click, paid marketing, Google gives you an allotment of money that you can use every day. And you can tell Google, this is how much money I want to use each day. This is my budget. I've got this much money to spend. So they break that out. And then you get a certain amount of money each day to use. Your ad goes up there. When somebody searches, they may see your ad at the top or on the side of the page. And when they see that, if they click it, that money gets deducted from your account. After that money is gone, your ad doesn't appear anymore. So SEM is not always just a guarantee because you paid money and you've bought your keywords. You need to think on keyword phrases. You need to think of something, and again, this is where looking at your competitors. And once you start looking at Google Ads and the Google keywords that we're getting into, when you start looking at that, hopefully you'll start seeing these key phrases to help you broaden your search, but at the same time pinpointing and bringing the consumer to your company website. And then when you get to your company website, when you create your pages, each page needs to be unique and specific. SEO terms, and Google, again, is another driver on SEO. And your search engine optimization means that each page within your website, again, is going to be specific, have certain content that's going to draw the user, the consumer, to your website. The last thing you want to do is to have a 20-page website and 8, 10, or even 2 of your pages are identical. What ends up happening is that when Google sees that, or because when I say see, I mean when their search engine, when their robots come and they check you out, when they see duplicate information, your company would end up being removed completely from the search engine results. Or I could say worse yet, put at the bottom, at the very end of the search engine results, but I don't think there's really much of a difference. There's a saying about being on page 2 of the search engine results. Basically, if you don't want to be found, get your company on page 2. You know, as a user yourself, think about when you search for something on the internet, how often do you go past page 1? For me, I'll probably go, depending on what I'm really looking for, I may go to page 5, but very, very rarely. And I think most of you are probably the same. And so what you need to do is those keyword phrases that you come up with to use for your paid search marketing, you want to use those same terms within your website. Yes, you can incorporate, if you had Bill's Sporting Goods and .com and you wanted to use Bill's Sporting Goods as your search engine phrase, you could do that. And you have it on your website, you know, as your website name, at your company name, etc. But at the same time, you also need to be careful with not making your website name too long. Now that'll be, that actually is another class. And I know I'm throwing a lot of different information at you, but I'm trying to explain how the process works, how the little puzzle pieces fit together. So maybe you can understand a little bit more about what organic means. Unfortunately, we can't use a tool called Yoast, and Yoast is one that you can incorporate into your site. For example, a lot of companies use WordPress, and because it is an open source, and there's a lot of different plugins and things you can use. And Yoast is one of them. And Yoast is a huge, very thorough SEO tool where once you install it into your WordPress, now I'm talking about a WordPress.org site because we can't put it in our .com in the class, but just to explain, with Yoast, once you install it, it brings up, it actually helps you to write your web page content, and it tells you you've got 300, you know, more than 300 words, so it's time to put a subheading. And what happens is that subheading on your page, it breaks up the text. And when you write your web page content, your content is supposed to be very, very basic, very short sentences. You want to avoid very hard words, but you want to have transitions in your sentences. Like you'll have, you know, in a transition words, are they going from first, then you say second, third, finally, or fourth, however you want to list that, those type of things. But Yoast will actually guide you through that. They also tell you, it'll tell you if your page is either, it's like a traffic light, it's either green, yellow, or red. And once you hit green across the board, you know your page is properly written in its content for SEO reach. You know your page is completely organic, and it's okay to save it, and now your page can go out there and hopefully people will start finding you. And yes, it is time consuming, but it's a great tool to help you get that organic reach for your website. So I hope the information I shared, and even though it was a lot, I hope it helps explain a little bit about the assignment and what we have coming up. Again, and I need to follow our grading rubric, which is attached to all of our assignments and discussion boards. I ask that you to open those rubrics and just follow them. Follow the steps. Look at the table. If you want to get the highest score possible, then look in that very first column that you're going to see and go straight down exemplary and make sure you meet each of those points. And by meeting each of the points, I don't mean just answering by, you know, one sentence. You know, in collegiate writing, 3 to 5 sentences is as a paragraph, and you really want to provide content. And again, these are helping you practice write marketing campaigns per se, and to reach the business leaders so that they, because you want to explain to them just like you're explaining to me. So in addition to me reading your content and making sure you have everything, it takes time for me to go through and make sure that you are following APA format. So I do try to get the grading out as quickly as possible. This week it's been a little bit slower just because of the amount of reading I have to do and the amount of feedback I need to provide. It goes a little quicker when you follow each of the steps in the rubric. But when I have to stop and I have to say, hey, you know, you had a $5,000 budget, but you didn't really explain, you know, where you're going to spend this money. You can't just say, I'm spending it on SEO and SEM. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything to the people you're going to be presenting this information to. Again, they want to know where and how you're going to be spending it. So I know I went quite long and kind of turned this into, I guess, a mini lecture. But again, I want you guys to see the face behind all the announcements I post. I know I've bombarded you with a lot in that area too, but please make sure that you're reading the announcements. Make sure that you're going to the announcement area and your SNU section so that you can, because a lot of the images that I post as well, some of them are informational images and they don't come over in your email, so you're going to get an email that looks like there's gaps, and just click on the link to go to the announcement so you can see what I've shared with you. Anyway, I thank you so much for taking the time for watching the video. I really appreciate all the hard work you guys have already done. I think you guys have done a great job in week 2, and I'm going to be getting to week 3 shortly. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Again, know that I'm here to help. I'm here to help guide you. And there may be times that you think I'm being hard, but I have to be on some accounts because I need to push you to do the best you can do. And I know that you guys can. I've already seen it, even though we just got into week 2. And I thank you guys for your time again, and I will see you in the classroom. Thank you.